When you think of Taiwan's top universities, a few big names probably pop into your head right away. But today, we're going to dive deep into one that's super interesting but often flies just under the radar, National Taipei University. We're going to use the hard data to figure out where it really stands in the pecking order. So in our past deep dives, we've looked at the heavyweights, NTU, NCU, and the major tech schools. Well, now it's time to turn our focus to National Taipei University, or NTPU. We're going to see how it stacks up against the 7 other big national universities and really get a sense of its place in the world and where it might be headed. Okay, before we get into any of the juicy rankings, it's super important we're all on the same page about how we're measuring this stuff. We're using something called the popularity index. The easiest way to think about it is this. It's not just about how high a department is ranked academically. It's also about how many students are actually fighting to get in. So by blending those two things, the rank and the student demand, we get a much, much clearer picture of how popular a department really is. Here's the game plan for today. First, we're going to figure out where NTPU actually sits in the grand scheme of things. Then, we'll peek inside the university and see which departments are the real stars. After that, it's showdown time. We'll put it head-to-head with its competitors. And finally, we'll talk about the big challenges that could shape its future. Sound good? Let's jump in. All right, Section 1, NTPU's real market position. So you've got this league of Taiwan's top 8 national universities. Where exactly does NTPU fit into that picture? So, let's start with a little guessing game. We've got almost 400 departments from all 8 of these universities in our list. Where do you think NTPU's #1 program first shows up? Is it in the top 20? Maybe the top 50? The answer might actually surprise you. We have to go all the way down to 89th place. And that's where we finally find NTPU's top-ranked department, its law program. You know, this one number tells a massive story right from the get-go. It pretty much anchors the entire university's entire identity and tells us exactly where its main strength is. The source analysis we're using just nails it with this description. It calls NTPU the peak of the second tier's latter half. I mean, it's such a great summary, right? It tells you NTPU isn't quite in that top elite league, but it's leading the pack of the next best schools. Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's zoom in. For our second section, we're going to crack open the university itself and see what the power ranking of its own departments looks like. We can actually sort NTPU's programs into 3 really clear tiers. Tier 1 is what you'd call its core strength. These are the very few departments that actually rank in the top 120 in the country. Then you have Tier 2, which is the solid, stable middle. And finally, Tier 3, which the analysis calls the weak flank. This is where things start to fall off. And here's what's so fascinating. When you look at Tier 1, it's all about one thing and one thing only, law. All 3 of its top-tier programs are from the law faculty. This is the biggest takeaway right here. Law is NTPU's one and only truly nationally recognized brand. But we have to be careful with the word strong, because it's all relative. Let's get some perspective. NTPU's law program is around 90th. Sounds pretty decent, right? But then you see that its main rival, NCCU, is all the way up at 17th. And then you have NTU, which is just in a different galaxy, dominating the top 10. The gap between them is just enormous. So moving on to Tier 2. This is the stable core of the university. Here we find all the business and social science departments. They're solid performers for sure. But the really key thing to notice is that not a single one of them manages to crack the top 150. They're good, but they're not quite great. And that brings us down to Tier 3, the weak flank. This is where you find NTPU's STEM programs. I mean, with computer science and electrical engineering ranked deep into the 200s, it's pretty obvious these programs are just not in the same league as what the big tech-focused universities are offering. So, okay, we have this nice, tidy, 3-tiered structure. But this picture is about to get a whole lot more complicated, thanks to a huge outlier in the data. And it makes you wonder, does every student who gets into the same university really start on a level playing field? The answer to that is a hard no. Get this, there is a 50 times, 50, difference in popularity between NTU's regular departments and its special flyer group, which is an admissions track for students from disadvantaged backgrounds. I mean, that isn't just a gap, it's a chasm. And this huge gap leads to another really powerful conclusion from the source material, which says the same university is, in reality, recruiting completely different tiers of students. This points to a really deep structural split inside the university itself, where the name on your diploma just doesn't tell the full story. Okay, so now that we have a clear picture of what's going on inside NTPU, it's time for the main event, the cross-university showdown. Let's see how NTPU really does when you put it right up against its direct competitors. The most important head-to-head is, without a doubt, against National Chengchi University, or NCCU. In the areas they both specialize in, law and business, the difference is just stark. NTPU's top law program is around rank 90. NCCU's is at 17. In business, NTPU's best departments are floating around the 200 mark, while NCCU has multiple programs well inside the top 100.
And if you thought that was a big gap, just wait till you see STEM. This chart puts NTPU up against National Central University. Look at this. In computer science, NCU is at 92, while NTPU is way down at 228. It's the exact same story in electrical engineering. The message here is simple. When it comes to tech, NTPU just isn't a major player.
And this isn't just cherry picking. The same pattern just repeats itself over and over again across all the humanities and social sciences. You look at public administration, history, Chinese, it doesn't matter. In pretty much every single case, NTPU is ranked significantly behind its main peer competitors. The story here is incredibly consistent.
And just so we cover all our bases, here's a quick look at the rest of their departments. As you can see, real estate, finance, statistics, they all fall somewhere in that 200s and 300s range, which just reinforces the overall trend we've been seeing. So now we really have the complete unvarnished picture of where NTPU stands.
So we've seen all the numbers. We know the what. But the really big question is, why? Let's move into our final section and look at what this is all building toward, the major structural challenges that are going to define NTPU's future.
The analysis we're using points to 3 huge risks on the horizon. First, changes to the exam system are actually shrinking the pool of students who would traditionally go into humanities. Second, the rise of AI is making a lot of people question the future value of law and business degrees, which are NTPU's core strengths. And third, unlike other universities that have strong STEM programs to fall back on, NTPU doesn't have that safety net. It's put all its eggs in the humanities and social sciences basket, and that makes it incredibly vulnerable.
And really, this brings us to the final and most critical question. NTPU is a stable university. It has a solid reputation. But in a world that's being completely transformed by technology and AI, a world where STEM is basically king, is just being stable really enough? That's the core dilemma this data presents, and it's the single biggest question for NTPU's future.